Should I scale my ads? Should I pause them? Should I just keep spending what I'm doing? I get this question all the time. So in this video, I'm gonna give you a decision-making framework that you can use to determine if you should scale your ads up, meaning put more budget behind them, if you should pause them, kill them, keep them where they're at. We're gonna break this down. This is all information, and again, the same decision-making frameworks we use at our agency that manages 7 going on 8 figures per month profitably for some of the biggest household name companies in the B2B space, info world, SaaS, and even some real estate funds. So let's dive right in. Most people don't actually know how to scale their ads or when they should put more budget behind something, kill a campaign, pause it, etc., because they don't have clear KPIs and metrics. They don't know what they're striving for to begin with. So this sheet right here can be utilized even if you are brand new to advertising, never ran an ad campaign before. What it's gonna do is it's going to show you the metrics that you need to strive for initially to be profitable. So if you want this spreadsheet, there's a link down in the description below. You can fill out your name, phone number, and email, and I'll shoot this over to you with a Loom video explaining how to use it. But essentially here, when we look at it, we basically have ad spend, cost per qualified call, the total calls, show rate, shown calls, close rate, close calls, average sales price. Now, average sales price is the amount you actually collect on the phone. So the cash collected in a 30-day cycle, not contract value. You have your total cash collected here, and then fulfillment cost, which you can adjust here. So in this scenario, this model, we're saying we have a 20% fulfillment cost on all things that we sell. Now, as you can see here, with these metrics, we would net 10K. So we'd have an ROI of essentially 1x. So we'd double our cash. So what we want to do is tweak these numbers here to try to get this to 0 and then this to 0. So for example, let's say our cost per call shoots up to $450 and our show rate is 60%. Our close rate goes down to 12%. Our average sales price, let's say 7,000. Now we're starting to get a little negative. So let's kind of tweak it a little bit, 14%, right? I'm just trying to find something to basically where you're about, break even, right? We're 450 over. That's fine. Essentially what you want to do is zero this out up here with certain metrics. Now, if you're just starting ads for the first time, fill these out knowing that, right? So if you've never closed cold traffic before, this might be at 10%. If your offer is $10,000, you legitimately might be at, like $5,000 if you're using like payment plans and stuff like that. You might be cash collected, average sales price in a 30-day window, $5,000. And as you can see, that drastically changes the net. So you'd be negative on your advertising efforts in this scenario. So then it says, all right, cool. Well, we need to make sure that we have, what if we have a $350 cost per qualified call? Nope, still negative. What if we have a $300, $325? Nope, $300. Nope. Let's say we can increase that show rate up to 65% by employing some of the best practices for pre-call sales. Nope. All right, let's see, 12% close rate. All right, now we're starting to get there. And this is where you can start to tweak with your price too. A lot of people say like, oh, how do I price my offer? What should I pitch and all that? Well, you have to model it out like this because, if you change this to like a $4,000 thing, it changes a lot. So you better have a higher close rate, a higher show rate, or lower cost per qualified call to compensate for that lower cash collected. So essentially, this sheet here, you're just like fiddling with these numbers, right? And you want, again, to zero this out. And here's the thing too, like say my fulfillment cost shoots up to 30%. Well, guess what? I'm going more in the negative. So is there something on the fulfillment side that I can cut down? Is there some sort of service that we have tacked on onto our package that costs us a ton, but gives the client literally no value? And we could still have and maintain a strong show rate, close rate, and cost per qualified call in the front end just by removing that service. These are all things you need to be thinking of. Now, say for example, you are running ads, you can say, all right, our historical cost per qualified call is, let's just say $275. Our historical cold traffic show rate has been 62%. Our historical close rate has been 15%. And we average cash collect, $4,500. It's like, all right, cool. Now we're in the actual green on this thing. We're not doing too much. We're at like a 1.1x ROAS right there. So basically to get the ROAS, it would be ROI 1 plus this. Technically, this would be 1.14x because you're making $1,400 net for every 10,000 you put in. By the way, this ROI is taking into account your fulfillment costs, which I personally like to do. I like to scale knowing what is my net ROAS. So basically, what am I actually returning on ad spend after all of my advertising costs, after my fulfillment costs, all that stuff, so I can make good scaling decisions. Now, again, if you're already running ads, fill this out here and then start tweaking with it, right? So if you're like, I really want to get, down to like a $225 cost per call, that's been our bottleneck. I've identified that that is our bottleneck. So if I can get it down to $225, which is realistic, what's that going to look for me? It's like, oh, okay, cool. This shoots up to here. we're at around a 1.4x ROAS. Awesome. What if I can tweak our sales process and get us up to 70%? Awesome. What if I can actually cash collect some more money because we're selling a $10,000 thing and only collecting $4,500 on average? What if I can get that to $6,500? Awesome. Now right there, our net ROAS is, in this case, 2.3, because again, add 1 to this, 2.3. You know, our front end ROAS is, in this case, 3, right? 3x ROAS. So this is all stuff you can do with this sheet. And I show you this exercise because you need to go through this first to understand what your break-even ROI or ROAS is and what your break-even show rate and close rate is. So let's just say we go down to here and we just get ourselves at a break-even point. Let's try to fiddle with some of these numbers. So we are at a break-even point right now in this model. So how do you know if you should scale spend, pause, or keep it where it's at? That's where we move into our scaling rules over here. So what I like to do before we launch any campaign is I will reference this spreadsheet and I will basically start making my scaling rules. So first off, ROAS trumps everything. If your return on ad spend is positive, spend more money, okay? So now what we do, knowing that ROAS is our main metric, we start there when we make our scaling rules. So I like to make black and white if then scaling rules. If this metric is this, I do this. If this is this, I do this. So first off, if my ROAS is below 1.5x, then I run a bottleneck analysis and find the bottleneck, solve for that, and keep spend where it is at. If my ROAS is below 1x, I pull back spend by 20% and run a bottleneck analysis. You see how we're just making scaling rules? This is it. Just making if-then rules. Then you do if my ROAS is between 1.5x and 2x, then I increase spend by 10% every 3 to 4 days. If my ROAS is between 2x and 3x, then I increase spend by 20% every 3 to 4 days. If my ROAS is above 3x, then I increase my spend by 30% every 3 to 4 days. And you can have whatever scaling rules you want. I'm just showing you an example here of kind of stuff that we do in our scaling rules, but essentially this is what you want to do. So you start with ROAS, right? You start with your ROAS. And you can also do your ROI calculation here. So if my ROI calculation based on this sheet is X, which again, this ROI calculation factors in fulfillment costs, then I do Y. Very simple. Now, knowing right here, your cost per qualified call that you need, your show rate that you need, your close rate that you need, and your average sales price that you need to break even on advertising efforts, we then move down to the next metric. So basically we would go to cost per qualified call. So we would say if my cost per qualified call is above $350, which is my break-even point, that's why we calculated this, then I pull back spend and run a bottleneck analysis on the front end of the funnel. If my cost per qualified call is between $275 and $350, then I scale spend by 10% every 3 to 4 days. If my cost per qualified call is between $225 and $275, then I scale spend by 20% every 3 to 4 days. Now, I usually do these metrics all the way up to like 30%, so we don't really ever scale spend in this time frame unless we're doing like some sort of like aggressive scaling strategy by 30% or more. But again, this is just assuming that you're not in one of those modes. So you'd be basically, if my cost per call is below $225 in this scenario, then I scale spend by 30% every 3 to 4 days. Then guess what? You do show rate, then you do close rate, then you do average sales price, right? So if you're essentially saying if my average sale price is below $6,000, then I'll audit my sales process. I'll look to see if our sales team is slinging more deals and using too many payment plans. I'll roll back some payment plans. I'll check our closing script. I'll maybe check the lead quality, stuff like that. If my show rate is below 65% in this scenario, I'll run an analysis on my sales process. I'll audit our back-end email flows. I'll see how our email deliverability is. I'll audit what our setters are doing and what our sales team's doing. I might need to bring in a lead nurture specialist to actually nurture the leads up. I'll check our pixel conditioning and make sure we're getting good lead quality. So in that case, maybe I'll check our offer rate and our qualify rate to see if we're actually getting qualified people through or not. You know, things like this, right? Same with close rate, same sort of exercise. So basically you sit down and make these if-then rules. And I help all of our clients obviously do this. Like we do this completely done for them on the back end. They don't even really know this stuff exists, but hey, if you guys are watching, this is what we do to make decisions in your ad account. So if you want us to do this for you, there's a link down in the description below. You can check that out and check out our offers. Or if you just want to learn this in more detail, again, our Inner Circle program is a great fit for you. We dive into this and more, but essentially this is what it is. So scaling ads is just you knowing what to do and when based upon metrics. So here in this video, I showed you how to get your main metrics as a barometer for where you're at. So it's like, hey, this is what the cost per call I need to break even. This should be the show rate. This could be the close rate. This should be the average sales price. And then there you make scaling rules. And if you're looking at this and you're like, I don't know if we can collect, man, 6K per sale. It's a little rough. Then guess what? You might have a higher close rate that you have to account for here, but a lower cash collected, right? Or if you're like, yeah, I mean, 350 cost per qualified call is kind of tough to get. I don't think we can really get that even with a lot of creative testing in our niche and everything like that. Then guess what? This might have to be like $500 and you might need to really focus on getting that show rate up. And you might have to get better at closing deals that are more expensive so you can bring this average sales price up. See how it's just a big model. You just need to fidget with these numbers to get it to essentially work and get you that break-even point in your metrics that feel comfortable to hit so you can make these scaling rules and scale intelligently. And that's all we're doing here. So again, if you want us to run your ads completely done for you, there's a link down in the description below. If you want this spreadsheet here that I went over in today's video, click down below as well. There's gonna be a page you can fill out your name, phone number, and email to download it. And if you want to join our Inner Circle program to go, basically I actually have a call on this, by the way, that's about an hour and a half long that digs into this in way more detail. You can click down below. But again, this will give you a great starting point for making your scaling rules. That's how you know if you should scale spend, pause, or keep it where it's at, is by just genuinely looking at the metrics here, having a baseline and a barometer. And by the way, if you're just launching ads for the first time ever, you have to let them spend a little bit. On a brand new account, you can't just look at things in the first 3 to 5 days and be all schizo, right? Let stuff spend for the length of your sales cycle, like 10 to 14 days when you initially launch ads, especially on a new account with no trained pixel, nothing like that, new offer, new funnel, everything. Let it spend. Let it spend. I cut off campaigns quicker whenever I have a seasoned account that I know, okay, cool, when I launch this ad and this new campaign, we should by like day 3 or 4 be at that $300, $400 book call, cost per qualified call metric. That's because I have prior account data. When I don't have a lot of prior account data, or when I'm launching a new offer or a new funnel or something like that, you have to let it spend. You have to do this exercise first to know, sure, what ballpark do I need to be in? But again, you just have to let it spend a little bit to catch some steam. And there's other rules sometimes that we'll run on accounts where we'll let a campaign spend about 3 to 5x the cost per target qualified call. So this metric right there in that spreadsheet that we went over, we'll let that spend before making decisions, but it is account dependent. So again, this will be a great baseline for you. Let me know if you have any questions below. See you on the next one.